everyone, I'm JS and welcome to freedrumcoaching.com. Let's get right into it. We're going to kick this site off with a lesson in foundation. Two of the biggest questions I get asked is how high should my throne be and how should I set my drums up? Now the right question to start off with is the throne height. If you just look at my drum set, my snare is angled forward, my floor tom is angled forward. Our drum set is going to be set up on personal ergonomics. People talk about ergonomics all the time like there's one specific way to ergonomically set up your drum set. Ergonomics is based on you, and the best way to set your drum set up is based on your height, your weight, and your body type, your reach. All of these have to be taken into consideration. So before we can even talk about how high should my snare be, where should my bass drum and hi-hat be or floor tom be, we have to talk about the throne. And I want to talk about this in detail and show you some quick examples. So we're going to go out from behind the drum set and we're going to go look at a couple of heights on different chairs. And I'm even going to give you some exercises to take away with you this week to help you develop your wrists and get us going on this side. All right, everybody? So let's go over there. I'll see you in just a second. So as I mentioned, seating is one of the first things we have to start with. I want to just show you a few examples. I am a big advocate of being a little bit higher on my seat. What I mean is, I don't like to have my knee either the same height or above my hip. If you sit with your leg flat out like that, you have to go through all this range of lifting your leg from your hip. You get no natural motion from sitting in such a low position like this. You really have to utilize a lot of hip motion. This is a lot of wear and tear. Now if you're a heel down player and that's all you play, okay, then you're going to get away from it, but you should be lifting up your heel to apply a few more techniques into your playing. And if you're going to do that, this is going to cause you some problems in the long run. So having a low seat like this, where when your feet are flat on the floor and your thighs are parallel like this is going to cause you problems down the line. But let me show you what too high is as well. Obviously, right? We can see that this is definitely too high. But I've seen drummers sit at their drum sets and have their thrones almost this high. Now, this is really bad. This is going to throw you off balance. Once you pick your legs up, you have no real good support underneath you. When you have to sit this far forward because you want this angle and this steepness to your legs, you also are going to have the drum, the pedal right underneath you to get that good footing. Once you slide your legs out and put things like this, you're in a very odd position. So being this high is not what I mean. Let's find that perfect height, okay? All right, here we go. Now for me, this is the perfect chair. Our first chair was too low, our second chair was too high, and our third chair is just right. Now how do we find that right height for us? How do we find an angle in our legs that's not too steep or that's not too flat? What is a good method to use? What's a good way to find your own personal ergonomic way of sitting? This is a little rule of thumb I have, and I explain this to my students and it has helped me out tremendously. So in my opinion, this is a really good way to figure out a good seating height for yourself. This is what you do. When you sit at your throne, put your feet flat on the floor. When you pick your legs up like this, basically with your shins straight down beneath you, and your balls of your feet and your toes are still flat on the floor, you're going to almost be parallel here, lifted all the way up. You can have that slight little angle in your seat at this position. So adjust your throne right now for me to when you are on your ball of your foot and your toes, both of them, not on your tippy toes, not just on the ball. Get a good foundation here. You know, your feet don't have to be right underneath you, but get it so it's nice and solid underneath you, okay? Ball on your foot and your toes. Lift your throne up until you have just a slight angle on your thighs. When you're in that position, drop your heels down. Look, now we have a nice natural angle. So when I'm picking my foot up and I'm doing my techniques, on the pedal in a heel up position, or I'm heel toeing, or I'm sliding, I'm never picking my knee above my hip height. Why? Because I did this adjustment at first. I found where it is parallel, and I adjusted my throw until the point where my knee is just below my hip, and I get a nice little natural angle, and then when I drop my legs, that's when I have my nice height. And try it. Try it behind your set. And when you do this, keep in mind, you're going to have to adjust your snare, and that's what I want to talk about right now, is snare height and angle adjustments, okay? Let's do that. Snare heights. Let's talk about the angle first. A lot of people play with this ramp type of snare setup. For me, this is a bad way to set up. I know it works for a lot of people, and that's great, but in my opinion, this limits the range of your motion, it creates a lot of shock, and it also causes a lot of bad habits. I'll show you what I mean. When you're playing your snare like this, and you want to hit a rim shot, one, you have to drop your hand down in this angle. You're forcing your forearm down and your hand up, creating a very sharp angle here in your wrist, which is going to put a lot of shock and compression on your nerves. You're also limiting the range of motion, because from here you can't go up much with your hand like this because you have this odd position. So I don't really understand this position too much. For me, it doesn't make much sense. And like I said, I know a lot of people do play like that, but I just don't understand it. So if you do play with your snare like this, contact me. Let me know your reasoning and how it's benefited you, because we're going to talk about a couple of other things here. Now, the flat snare drum angle is okay, right? That's how a lot of guys play. I played like that for years, with your snare drum nice in front of you and flat, just like this. Okay? But again, what happens here is you really limit the range of motion on your downstroke. You have to lift and pop your wrist, which is great technique, and we're actually going to talk about that before we're done here today. But this too, keeping the snare at that flat angle, we could do all sorts of cool stuff. Your rim shot's right there, right? It feels good. But what I personally like to do is play with my snare slightly angled away from me. Now, this is drastically done like this just so you can really see it on the camera. But I want to talk about the height before I talk about the angle. A simple rule of thumb. Many drummers play with their snare drums too low, and a lot of guys play with their snare drums too high. When you sit on your throne and you strike your snare, you should come up and have a nice strike right there. Okay? It should be right there. Now, you can see my forearm is parallel. It's pretty good. The reason I play with my snare like this is because I get this great downward motion. My molar technique has plenty of snare to get on. I can pivot great, and my downstroke doesn't take all this shock into my hand because it's actually coming down. And when I want a rim shot, it's right there. Right there. At a perfect angle. Always feels really good. So you know what? Humor me and slightly angle your snare drum forward a little bit and check it out. But the height. Now, as far as snare height, this is real simple, and we can just end this really quick. What you need to do is make sure that your hand is coming down at a nice natural angle. The simplest thing to do is place the stick on the rim, bring it back, and it should be right about at your belt buckle height. This way, when your hand comes down, you have a nice parallel or slightly angled forearm, not drastically so your hand is all bent here and not so your hand is bent like this. So you get a nice stroke, and you can let the stick relax down on the snare. And that's why I play with the snare angled forward, because the natural shape of the stick goes down forward like this. I get my rim shots easily. I just have to tap the center of the snare like this. I want my rim shot, it's right there, nice and easy, both hands, effortless. I don't even have to think about it. There's no strain and shock because I'm letting the stick angle down. The shock wave is coming through the stick and out, as opposed to if it was flat, right into my hand and up my forearm. So do me a favor, humor me. Sit at your drum set and angle your snare just forward a little bit. But remember, if you angle your snare forward, you should angle your floor tom the same way and have it the same height, because when you go from one drum to the other, it's the same thing, okay? So don't angle your floor tom all the way in like this and have your snare flat so you have to play at these weird angles. Watch the positioning of your hands, and we're going to talk about that in the few exercises I'm going to give you to take away today. You're going to practice the exercises for a couple of days, and we're going to meet back here next week, and we're really going to start taking this site someplace excellent. All right, everyone? Thank you so much. Let's do some exercises. So when was the last time you did full stroke wrist development? When was the last time you worked on your free stroke? Did you ever? Well, that's what we're going to do today, and that's what I'd like you to work on over the next week. Even if you've done these before in the past, which I hope you have, but if you haven't, then this is going to be a saving grace for you, because these are exercises that are absolutely the first things you should have learned when you were playing drums, and these are the first things that you should have practiced until you drove your parents and friends and neighbors crazy. The first thing we're going to talk about is full wrist development strokes. A full wrist development, I'm not talking about rebound strokes. I'm talking about getting our muscles stretched, getting muscle memory going on, getting the flexibility, as I said, stretched, and just understanding the motion and the range of motion. Now, a lot of times people just practice using their hand. They literally are only just tapping with their hand, and they wonder why they can't get faster, and it's because they're not incorporating their forearm. If I sit here and tap just for my hand, that's what I get. But if I pop from my wrist, meaning when my wrist and forearm come up, the stick goes down, and when my wrist and forearm go down, the stick goes up, I get a lot of strength and a lot of power by that. Now, I'm not saying you're going to sit at your set and play in songs, but have you ever done this before? Have you actually practiced this? So what I'd like you to do is at 60 beats per minute, and I'm going to show you a small example right now. At 60 beats per minute, I want you to tap down on the quarter note, and I want you to come up and let the stick tap up here on the eighth note. So we're going to do 60 beats per minute, eighth note subdivisions, down on the quarter note, and when you come back, you're going to be on the and of the eighth note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you're also going to focus, good posture, both butt cheeks on your stool, feet flat on the floor, looking straight ahead, your spine straight. You're not slouched forward, you're not back like this. We'll get to stretching and all this stuff another day, but hand like this, you're going to work both hands, right and left, like you're sitting here at the table waiting for your meal, okay? And you're going to down and up, down and up, down and up, down and up. No rebound right now, just developing your wrists, the range of motion. But I said to a metronome, you have to do this to a metronome. So 60 beats per minute, eighth note subdivisions, 1, 2, 3, 4. The second exercise I'd like you to do is go to 80 beats per minute and tap all of the notes, all the eighth notes on the downstroke. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 at the full stroke height. Don't come past the 12 o'clock position. Staying between the 10 and 12 o'clock position is cool. I'll give that that's a full stroke to me, but don't come past. There's no reason to come all the way back here. And like I said, when you're playing, you're rarely gonna come all the way up here, but it's good to get this going. So now we're gonna go 80 beats per minute, I said, okay? And we're gonna go up to, we're gonna tap out all of the eighth notes, okay? Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go to 100 beats per minute, and now I want you to drop the height, but I still want you to play all eighth notes, okay? Let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want to do the same thing one last time at 120 beats per minute, but I want you to bring the height all the way down here. Now remember, don't choke up on your stick, don't hold it tight, don't hold it like it's a dead fish in your hand, don't hold it like it's a stick of dynamite and it's going to blow up, don't hold it like it's a feather. You want control. You know your fulcrum. I hope you know your fulcrum, right? If you don't, we'll talk about it in the next exercise, well, the next exercise, but right now 120 beats per minute, nice and easy wrist strokes. You're putting the stick down and picking it up, but only from this height here, like you're hammering a little nail. Alright, I told you to come to my house and take this little hammer and put a piece of molding on my wall, and you're just tapping it, tap, 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 tap. 120 beats per minute, eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, we're working in German grip, meaning the backs of our hands are towards the ceiling, the butt end of the stick is coming out at the meaty portion of our hand. We're like this. This is the position we're working in, German grip. Don't work in American position, don't work in French position. We are taking this as a day one aspect and working on the foundation and the wrist motion. These exercises are for you to start, again, like I said, get that muscle development, the flexibility, the muscle memory, and understanding the range of motion. But we have to touch base on rebound before we go, and we will pick this up next time, but I want to give you a simple little exercise to practice on rebound. But first, I want you to adjust the fulcrum. Instead of that traditional thumb and forefinger fulcrum like we were just using in the German grip tapping, I want you to shift your fulcrum from your thumb and forefinger to your thumb and middle finger, and in the middle of your middle finger, meaning you have the top section, the middle section, and the bottom section. Let the stick rest in the middle pad with your thumb here, and bring your hands here, and put the top of your stick just like this. In this position here, we were just in, the same thing, throw the stick down. You're going to see it bounces back. Do you see the difference there? This is me picking it up. This is me not letting it bounce up. This is me choking the stick and keeping it down. This is letting the sticks bounce back up. See that? Now, This is what I want you to practice, and you don't even need to do this exercise with the metronome. I want you to get used to feeling this. Nice and light in your hand. Coming up, you see my wrist is bending down. As I'm coming down slowly, I'm letting the stick bounce, and it's flipping back in my hand. I'm not flipping it back like that. It's naturally bouncing back, and I'm letting it pivot in the fulcrum. You see, your fulcrum is not a balance point. Your fulcrum is a pivot point, and it is a point in pivot in which you can control and have master of. And this is going to help you out. These two exercises you're leaving here with now are going to change your hand techniques in a week. I promise you, you will feel more solid, it'll be stronger, faster, and you'll have better control from just doing those full stroke developments between 60, 80, 100, and 120 beats per minute, and doing this one, just sitting, forearm nice, hand up, letting the stick bounce back. Just feel that motion nice and easy in your hand. Just let it roll back. Now, if the bottom of the stick is hitting your leg, that means your snare is too low. Also, it could mean that you're dropping your hand down too much. You just heard that clack before, my hand hit the rim. I was too far forward, all right, and I was too low. Your snare, you can see my elbows are relaxed at the side. When I strike down, my tips of my stick land right in the center of the snare. This is my natural. There's my rim shot. There's my middle shot. Rim shot, middle shot. Rim shot, middle shot. But you know I like to play with my snare angled forward. But for this, we'll keep it straight. One more time. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I want. So adjust all your heights so you get this kind of a response. Just letting that free stroke come back. We're not even talking about snapping forward right now. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Just get used to feeling that nice and easy. And of course, with your left hand as well. All right, everybody, I'm JS. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much. This is freedrumcoaching.com. Take care, everyone.